Oops, the screen disappeared. Oh, there we go. All right, everyone. Good afternoon, actually good evening. Welcome to our Q&A today for high school parents. I would like to welcome board members, principals, MTA President Diana Orlando, teachers and staff. As you may have heard, our school will open with very different ways of teaching and learning due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. We have had discussions with parents and students of different age groups. And today we'll be focusing on what approach, what method of teaching that would be appropriate and feasible for our high school students. As a matter of course, the students' health and safety are always the top priorities. Our next challenge is how to help the high school students, especially seniors, to prepare for their next step on to college. The school district has formed at least 14 subcommittees to come up with the planning for our students, and a tentative plan has been designed. Today, we are inviting you to this meeting to help us identify the issues, particularly for the high school students. Your questions will be answered as time allowed. We have two principals here, one from MHS and the other one's from Cal Hills. Your concerns and inputs will be taken into the consideration throughout the whole planning process to help us with this school year. Last but not least, I want to thank our school leaderships, teachers, staff for all the hard work for the education and wellness of our students. Before I introduce you to our Vice President, I would like to remind you to please turn on your video. We'd like to connect with you. We'd like to see you and not just a telephone number or your baby pictures. And if you have questions down by the participation, there's an icon with the raising hands. Please press that, wait for your turn, we'll call you and you can ask your question then. And now I would like to introduce to you our board Vice President, Chris Norwood.
Good evening, Milpitas High School and Cal Hills parents. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to have this parent Q&A session with us, featuring our superintendent, our principal at Cal Hills High School, Mr. Carl Stice, and the principal of Milpitas High School, Mr. Francis Rojas. President Han Lien mentioned a deep concern about our seniors as they are going to be preparing for college and the next phase of our life, the next phase of their lives. We also have a deep concern for our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, because this is a new way of education that they are going to have to learn to get used to. Our goal in ensuring the health and safety of the Milpitas High School classified team members, teachers, and administrators is to determine how we can create the best learning environment for everyone moving forward. These are very difficult times. These are uncertain times and unprecedented times. So as you hear the presentation from the superintendent and the high school principals, understand that we are learning and we are developing as you are trying to figure out how you are going to support your student or students, possibly even at multiple schools during the school year. We understand the challenges, and our goal is to work with you the best that we possibly can to prepare you for this time and our children and your children in the way that they can not only survive, but thrive in this new world and economy. And with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Cheryl Jordan.
Thank you, President and Vice President, for our introductions tonight. It's our pleasure to bring these meetings to all of our parents. This one, I believe, is our 8th one in the last couple of weeks. And it's been, I have to say, it's been a great joy to be able to connect with everybody. And it's something that I would look forward to doing as a regular habit as we continue through the school year and years beyond. Tonight, we are going to be focusing on the high school, as our President and Vice President shared with all of us. And I'd like to introduce the people that you'll be hearing from. We have our Assistant Superintendent of Learning and Development, Ms. Norma Rodriguez, and our Principal of Milpitas High School, Mr. Francis Rojas, Assistant Principal Skylar Draker, and our English, one of our English teachers, Brett Weber, and our AP Chemistry teacher, Lita Meyer. She's also helps to run our Science Olympiads. And we have Principal Carl Stice from Cal Hills, and we should have a picture of Mr. Jonathan Payne. We'll make sure we have one for Thursday, and he is our counselor at Cal Hills High School.
Yes, and he will be joining the meeting on Thursday.
Great. As our president asked, part of building community is being able to see each other's faces. So when we get to the point in time when it's time for questions and answers, we ask that you turn on your videos so that we can see you. And also another thing is in our group chat, while it is a great way when it's question and answer time to put in your questions, during the presentations, it can be very distracting for other people as well as for yourself, because we need you to listen to what is being said, and hopefully some of your questions will be answered then. And of course, if they're not, certainly would like you to ask those questions at the time. And what President Lien was referring to is when you hover your cursor down towards the bottom of your screen, you should see participants. And if you click on that, you'll get this window. And on this window, you'll see where it has that you can raise your hand. And that's how we will do the questions and answers part. This is a word cloud. For those of you who aren't familiar with what a word cloud is, it's where you take text from paragraphs, from writing, from books, from surveys, and you paste it into the word cloud generator, and then it generates this word cloud. So this word cloud is based on the 1,772 responses that we had up to last week, with all of your questions and other parents' questions. And you see that the most frequently used words are children, students. Your children are our students. Learning and school, teachers, kids, distance, options, parents, classroom, and you could see the rest. And that's really what we're all here together focused on, is the learning of our students, our children, and ensuring that together we are all working as one to create the best possible learning experiences for them in 2021. Just because I want to make sure that everybody knows that if their questions aren't answered here, and if you don't see it in the FAQs, which will be produced this week online, there are other ways that you can get in touch with us. If you go to our webpage, you can get in touch with the superintendent's office or directly with your school's principal, and I will show you a quick demonstration. So here is the front page of our website, and you see the quick links at the bottom. If you click superintendent, it takes you to the superintendent page. And as you scroll down the bottom, you'll see this area where you can enter your name, your address, and your email. And in this box is where you would write your question, your idea, your comment. And then in our superintendent's office, either myself or Mr. Forstner mostly Mr. Forstner, will take a look at your question, and if he's not able to answer it, then he will make sure that the person who can gets your question within 1 to 2 business days. The other way to get questions answered is to go to our schools. And since we're focusing on high school tonight, I'm going to take us to our high schools. And if you, let's see, we hover down and you go here, then you can come to the high schools. And it's not working for me. There we go. And if I were to click on Cal Hills, for example, it takes me to Cal Hills homepage. And then up here, it says connect with us. And that's how I can connect directly with the principal or with Counselor Payne or with one of the other staff members. And then the same on Milpitas High School. So again, if you have additional questions after tonight, these are ways that you can get those answered. Registration and enrollment. Those are some of our frequently asked questions. And I think I forgot to mention that the presentation for tonight, before we begin the Q&A session, is addressing all of the frequently asked questions that we found in those 1,700 questions that were provided to us. And I really am thankful again that you're here tonight with us to share in community as we all figure things out together. So now is the time that I'm going to ask first Mr. Rojas to share how to do registration and enrollment, and then I'll ask Mr. Stice to share with us how to do registration and enrollment at Cal Hills.
Okay, good evening, everyone in our Milpitas Unified School District community. Francis Rojas, principal here at Milpitas High School. As we are approaching the beginning of our 2020-21 school year, our registration is one of the first steps that we take to ensure that all of our students are on our rosters and ready to start on the first day of school. Normally, we would have registration by grade level showing up here on campus, but due to our present condition with our pandemic and shelter in place, we are trying our best to make that as virtual as possible. So for those of you who are joining us tonight that still need to enroll their students into Milpitas High School, you can go onto the district website or the Milpitas High School website, and there should be information there about enrolling into our district. That information gets forwarded digitally to our registrar's office, who will then contact you with the needed information and enrolling into the high school. As for registration, if you're already enrolled, tomorrow every parent and student will be receiving an email from me regarding the instructions for registration. It will give you the link to your Aries parent portal and student portal. It's important that parents update their information, log into the Aries parent portal, update their data and information, and when the date comes. So that email tomorrow will tell you what day that will be active on our district Aries parent portal website. And I believe it should be active early next week, possibly on, our goal is to have that active on Monday the 3rd. But I will put that in my letter tomorrow. As usual, every year you go onto the Aries parent portal. It takes you through a couple of different screens where you have to take a look at our district and site student parent handbook, take a look at a couple of different forms, like there's a media release form, there will be a technology use form. So you go through all those steps, and at the end of that, there will be this acknowledgement form that you have updated your information and gone through all of those different forms. At this point, we are still going to need to collect those forms in person. So we will try to time those days with days that your student needs to come onto campus to either take their ID picture or when we do textbook pickup. Tentatively, as of right now, we are looking at just focusing on our incoming freshmen to get their new ID cards, because the ID cards have the barcode on it, and that will really help us expedite the checkout of textbooks when that time comes the week after school starts. And hopefully our 10th through 12th graders still have their ID cards from last year and they can use those. Again, our focus is to get our freshmen their ID cards as well as any new students to our school, their ID cards, so that can expedite the process and we can maintain social distancing during those in-person times to pick up textbooks after the first week of school. As for student schedules, those should all pop up during, I would believe those should pop up mid to late next week. And our counseling department will be sending out an email to all parents and students about how to make requests to their counselors for any changes in their schedule. But currently our counselors will be working to set the schedules based off of information we've received. And then we will have either an online form or appointments for students to briefly meet with their counselors to make those adjustments.
Yeah,
So
our current plan is to open up for viewing the student classes next week on Thursday in the morning. So Thursday morning, and then we will have a form to request schedule changes.
Okay, and that's our assistant principal, Skylar Drager. Thank you for that information. So we are finalizing our dates and things do change here and there. So please look out for Parent Square messages from me with the first one starting tomorrow about registration. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Principal Stice.
Good evening, parents, guardians, other interested parties who are present. We are definitely in a time where our usual way of doing things in MUSD and also in Calaveras Hills High School has had to change and adapt. And so just briefly, most of what you heard from Principal Rojas is also accurate for Calaveras Hills High School with a few minor adjustments. So the first thing is that because at Cal Hills, students are going to be coming over, excuse me, from Milpitas High School, we normally do the in-person registration and what we call the orientation. And so we are still going to conduct orientations with parents and students. We're just going to do them virtually. So what's going to happen is our secretary, Kimmy Porter, is going to be contacting all new students and parents for either a one-on-one or a group Zoom meeting. So the first part of it will be a one-on-one with the principal and the family, or the counselor and the family. And then there will be a second, more broad and informative meeting about how virtual and distance learning is going to go. And that will be at a later date. I don't have a date exactly yet, but that will be a group Zoom meeting that all Calaveras Hills parents, including new parents, will be invited to. And then all returning students are going to receive an email this week to update their registration via the parent portal, as Mr. Rojas indicated. And we should be able to have student schedules out by late next week is our goal. I think pretty much covered any of the differences without repeating what Principal Rojas has already said.
Thank you to both of you. President Leanne referred to our subcommittees from our task force, and we do have 14 subcommittees. I want to just make sure everybody has the context for how we came to developing these plans that we are working on and will present at our special board meeting on Monday, August 3rd at 6 p.m. And that is that we began back around the end of March, beginning of April, collecting from you, from our teachers, our staff members, and our students input about their experiences with distance learning. And at that time, we literally dove in without much preparation and did the best that we could, knowing that there was a lot to learn. And you as parents did the same thing, because you now had your students, your children at home, and you were there in their kitchen, in their dining rooms, in their bathrooms, wherever it was that they were setting up as their place to do their learning and their homework. And you were there able to see what they were doing. And some things that you shared with us was that you found it difficult to figure out what they needed to be doing. And they shared with us that having 6 different expectations for different platforms, different meeting rooms was difficult. And that would be better if we had one learning platform and one mode that people did their meetings in. Those are just some examples of the experiences that you had that are informing the work that we're doing. And throughout that time, leading up through July, we've had over 6,000 responses to those different surveys. Around the end of May, probably the 3rd week of May, we formed a COVID advisory task force made up of 45 people who are our association leaders and representatives of all walks of our team everywhere, including our custodial team, our paraprofessionals, our food and service professionals, as well as teachers and site leaders. And they were the ones who determined that we needed these 14 areas for subcommittees. And so then we created our MUSD task force subcommittees. And that's where we opened the doors for people to have a more active role besides the parent surveys and really determining what the details might be for recommendation on the overall plan. And we have currently over about 215 people working on those different aspects of the plans. And they've really given a lot of time and effort to this as parents, students, and team members, and none of them receiving compensation, most of them doing it on their own time. So collectively, literally thousands of hours put into our planning. And that really represents our culture of we. I also want to add in there that in addition to those surveys and one-on-one conversations that people had, we also had a number of parent meetings. Some of the meetings were weekly, depending on the group of parent needs. Some were once a month, and some were bi-weekly. And we're still having those parent meetings, and you're at one of them right now. So I'm very proud of the work that we are doing here together in Milpitas Unified. Our number one strategic goal is building a culture of we. And we are experiencing the fruits of our dedication to making that strategic goal something that's living and robust and tangible to all of us. And that's why you may notice other school districts posting plans. Maybe they posted them last week or in the last 10 days. And I know that some of my colleagues have groups of about 50 or 30, but I don't know of any of them who have groups of 260 people involved in the planning. So I'm really proud and thankful to all of you for your part in it. Whether you're a part of the subcommittees, I know that you've given voice to what it is that you need, either directly in a small group, a one-on-one with one of our staff members, or in one of those surveys. So I thank you all for being a part of our phasing in 2021. Now I'm going to go through some of the systems and some of the subcommittees so that we can see the work that's being done that answers those frequently asked questions that you have. And our systems subcommittee was responsible for determining safety and personal protective equipment and how we might implement that. So you see here on this screen some different examples of the safety protocols that they want to put in place. Some are already in place. You see here one of our secretaries in our maintenance operation transportation, Ms. Rona Talinto. And you see that we have in front of her a large sneeze guard, which is similar to those that will be in all of our school offices and our district offices. And in some of our special ed classrooms, and perhaps in some of our classrooms where we have our smallest learners, if there's a need, we may be putting in these types of sneeze guards to assist with adding to the social distancing and safety of not spreading the virus. You see also below that a funny looking gray contraption that is a hand washing station. And we've contracted with somebody to provide these hand washing stations, and they'll be located in the parts of our campuses that are a bit of a distance from a local bathroom, so that our students and our team members can all engage in frequent hand washing. And if you would please remind your teenagers that it's important for them to wash their hands for 20 seconds. And in addition to that, we will be putting signage, directional signage for Footpath, because when we know that we're all going one way as we walk from one part of the campus to the other, it helps us to decrease the chances of not social distancing. And similarly to in the stores and the Starbucks, where we need to have lines, there will be social distantly placed location markers showing us where to stand. Many, many signs throughout campuses reminding us about social distancing and wearing our facial coverings. And when we wear our facial coverings, if you can remind your teenager that it needs to be over their nose, down below their chin in order to be effective, that would be helpful. We are also going to employ hand sanitizer in every classroom, as well as frequent locations, and Terminator type of disinfecting spray, which actually sanitizes. It's a fine mist that dries within about 5 minutes, and that's something we'll be using in between classrooms. And then you'll see as our principals go through the plans that there are times in the day when we can do a more thorough cleaning after students are gone. And then there's the big question about, well, what happens if there's a student or an employee who has COVID or who's tested positive for COVID? What do we do? The governor and his executive order on July 17th gave us parameters around when we close classrooms and when we close schools and when we close the district. And for example, at the high school level, what we will have to do is, in all cases, we have to report to the public health department. The public health department is providing us with a standardized notice form that we have to give to all employees and students and parents of those who may have been in contact with the person who has COVID or who has tested positive for COVID. And then the public health department will be responsible for doing contact tracing. And at the high school level, what they've said is based on where that student has been or where that team member has been, that will be the way that we determine closing down classrooms. If 5% of the student or the team member population has COVID or is tested positive for COVID, then we close the school for in-person learning. And if 25% of our schools have persons who have been tested or who have tested positively with COVID or who have COVID symptoms, then we close the district to in-person learning and support. Schedules and attendance. President Leon?
Yes. School starts on August 13th, and the attendance will start right on the 13th. So remind your students to log on time to get the attendance marked. Otherwise, it will be marked tardy or absent.
And at the high school level, we need to ensure that our students every day have 240 minutes of instruction and assignments combined. And that is something that is not only a state requirement, but it's something that we learned is important for us to do in Educate Everywhere 2.0. These are some other areas that will be uniform across the district, and I think will help to bring peace of mind to all involved, teachers as well as parents and students, I hope. One, as President Leanne mentioned, is that we will have daily attendance. We will also be documenting weekly engagement, and weekly engagement might be providing student grades, student projects. It could be student assessments. It could be students logging on to the learning management system, which will be Google Classroom. And it has to be some way that we document, and that'll be for state auditing purposes, as well as it helps to support the progress reporting for parents. Another piece of the development that is something I think that parents will be glad for is that we will have regular progress reporting for parents, and the way that you'll access that is that grades will be entered into Aries regularly, so that as parents you can go and check how your students' grades are coming along. And then every day we have to have live daily contact between teacher and students, and that live daily contact could be just like we're doing right now, synchronously doing instruction virtually. It could also be a phone call. It could be an instantaneous text or email, but there has to be some sort of live daily contact each day. And now Principal Rojas and team will share with us the high school scheduling.
Okay, hello again. So as you can see here on the screen, our schedule, and we presented this a couple of times in the past, we are moving into a block schedule with about 105 minutes per period. Essentially, the 105 minutes is comprised of two portions. That's 90 minutes of instruction and 15 minutes of what we're calling COVID-19 processes. So when we do have to transition to in-person learning, the 15 minutes is time for desk cleaning and temperature taking, any process that we may need to ensure the safety of our students during that class period time. However, during the distance learning time that we're starting off our first semester with, all distance learning, those are 105 minutes total. And later in this presentation, Mr. Weber or Ms. Meyer can explain how we would use that 105 minutes. We are not expecting that the 105 minutes is 105 minutes of a student facing the screen and a teacher talking, but what will be required, as explained in the previous screen, was that there will be daily live interaction, attendance taken every period at the beginning of class. And since these are block periods, we would like to ensure engagement of the student through the period, so some sort of either attendance toward the end of class or submission of work completed during that period. So as you can see on this slide, period 1 meets from 8:30 to 10:15 on Mondays and Thursdays. Period 2 meets on Tuesdays and Fridays. Then there's a 20-minute break, followed by followed by period 3 and 4 on those respective days from 10:35 to 12:20, followed by a 50-minute period lunch, and then the last periods of the day are periods 5 and 6. There are a lot of questions as to why we are doing odds on one day, evens on another day. We do have several classes and programs here that are cored, meaning that they meet 2 periods on a normal traditional day. This allows those students to have interactions daily rather than for a 3-period block on every other day. So that provides us daily interactions. We also have programs such as our dual enrollment with San Jose City College, where students are enrolled in university courses in the afternoon, and that allows that block of time for periods 5 and 6 daily to be allocated for dual enrollment with San Jose City College. For our students who are also involved in Silicon Valley Career Technical Education, SVCTE, also known as Metro Ed, this block schedule also allows for that those time periods to be allocated for students who have those programs. So overall, we're looking at starting the year with all distance learning to start semester 1, and then when allowed, under state and county guidelines, again, that was explained earlier around if we're off the watch list for 14 days, then we can transition toward hybrid instruction. It'll follow the same exact schedule, but we'll transition to in-person learning for smaller groups of targeted students. And these would be our students in our special education programs, our English learners, and also providing a learning hub on campus for students who are disengaged or students who need additional in-person support. Meaning, you know, if it is a challenge to be at home during this time, we can provide a learning hub on campus with Wi-Fi access, adult supervision that can help guide them to follow their schedules and support here on campus in small groups. So that's essentially the high school schedule that we are moving into starting on August 13th for our students. Oh, I forgot to mention the Wednesdays, very similar to the middle school model, are for office hours, staff collaboration, preparation time. During that day, students will work on assignments independently, and teachers will set up some time for additional supports on that day as well. And to reiterate, attendance taken every period, every day. Courses will be graded, and an agreement that we made with our instructional leadership team. These are all of our department leads as well as our administration. It's about a team of about 25 staff members here on the MHS campus. We are agreeing that all teachers will use Aries to communicate progress on a weekly basis, so that you know, parents and students know where to find the information all in one place around the progress that they're making. And that is the update around our schedule at Milpitas High School.
Thank you, Principal Rojas. And now we have Principal Stice, Cal Hills High School.
Hello. So the committee that has been working on scheduling for secondary, we wanted to model as closely as we could so that students are having a similar experience, similar quality of experience. However, there are some differences again with Calaveras Hills High School. So because there are a large proportion of our students at Cal Hills who are falling into the category of either lesser engaged at times or needing more support. Our plan is as soon as possible, and also due to our small size, we are hoping to bring all students into in-person learning as soon as safe to do so, as guided by the county protocols. So the schedule is very, very similar to MHS, although the committee tried to end our day approximately when our day ends now, you know, as it has. And so, and not only that, we feel that 105 minutes classes, we were able to make this 90 minutes of instruction and student engagement and group work and independent work, obviously as is safe, and not have the 15 minutes of the cleaning, because our plan is to have staff members disinfect the classroom after students leave. So the plan is 8:30 to 10 o'clock, and then a break, 10:15 to 11:45, and then a break, 11:45 to 12:15 is lunch, and then 12:15 to 1:45 is their last period. Group A will go Monday and Tuesday. Group B will go Thursday and Friday. And Wednesdays are for teacher prep time, and preferably in the mornings. And then afternoons are for intervention labs for our lesser engaged students, our ELs and our SPED students, of course, accommodating only 12 or less per room, per classroom. And again, this is when we go to live instruction in person. Attendance will be taken every period, every day. Courses are graded. All teachers will use Aries to communicate student progress. And so all distance learning will be to start semester 1, and then when allowed under state and county guidelines, hybrid instruction will follow that schedule in groups of 12 or less. Wednesdays, again, will be the learning hub for those students. We also are following the odd and then the even periods because of Silicon Valley Career Tech Ed and San Jose City College. So they're not missing both their 5th and 6th period on the same day. And I think I mentioned that Aries progress will be reported in Aries by teachers weekly. Hopefully that is clear enough and open for questions.
All right. Thank you very much. And now, as Principal Stice had stated, now we're ready for questions and answers.
I think the first question here we have is from Teresa Lim.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry. It took me a while to unmute. Actually, I have quite a few questions. So as you mentioned, there is going to be a over 100 minutes of class period. How do you ensure the students actually engaged and paying attention? Is there a certain structure that you will be in place, particularly for the students?
That would be a yes, Mr. Weber. I'm just going to ask.
There we go.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm a high school English teacher, and believe me, I do not want to teach for 90 minutes in a row, sitting talking to a computer screen like I'm talking to now. There's a big question mark on the screen, and that's what I'm staring at. No, the intention is that the instruction time is 90 minutes, but the intention is not for the teacher to teach for 90 minutes. We do not want a Zoom fatigue to set in where our youngsters are sitting looking at a screen all day. So the way we envision this is that at the beginning of the period, let's just take first period or second period at the beginning of the day, 8:30 in the morning, the whole class checks in. I take attendance. Actually, Google Meet takes attendance for me. But we take attendance, we get going with the housekeeping, what is happening in the class. I might have my initial instruction. I might teach a new concept. I might clarify what we did yesterday and then launch into what I'm going to do for today. That may take 45 minutes, a basic class period. Then I would probably release my students with an assignment. Go off and do it, and I might break them into small groups. They go into small groups and work on an assignment. At the end of the 105 minutes, the 90 minutes of instruction and 15 minutes of housekeeping activities, we would come back in. They submit their work that they've done that period. I give them their homework and I take attendance again. And so at the beginning of the period, I make sure that they're there. At the end of the period, I make sure that they're there. During the class, I hate to say it, it's the same as when they're in my class. They can put their head down and go to sleep. They can be staring at the wallpaper. They can't be on their phones in my class, but I only have so much control. And so they will be doing what I can control, which is an assignment that I will send out through Google Classroom. They have to submit that at the end of the period, or at 6 o'clock tonight, or at tomorrow's class period. But we will have other assignments. It is not the intention that we sit and stare at a screen for 90 minutes. But what is the great thing about this schedule is that it allows us as the educators, us as the trained professionals, to be flexible with our time. So I might check in the first 2 minutes, take attendance, send out an assignment, and let the students work on that before I even teach. So now I'm assessing what they learned yesterday. After 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I bring them back into the whole group and we review what they talked about. Then I can teach the new assignment and I can let them go at the end of the 90-minute period with a homework assignment. Off you go. It allows me to be flexible because I have the time period to do that. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, and I assume all the other teachers will have similar approach then, I guess.
This is what we have discussed with them.
Excellent. Sorry, I know I have 4 questions, so that's the first one. The next 2 hopefully is going to be a lot easier to answer. The next question would be, when we start the students go back on to campus, how do you ensure the students themselves are following the guidelines? Because I know you can put all the papers in and stuff, but you know how teenagers are. Sometimes they was, oh, I'm hanging out with my friends or my boyfriend or something. I really want my mask down. Is there something that the school is planning to do to make sure that they do follow that rules?
Is that one me again?
It could be one of our other.
Yeah, we do. Sorry, I'm Assistant Principal Skylar Drager. We have several different plans for that. Of course, there needs to be some oversight, people outside reminding students. But that's also like when we talk about putting in directional arrows, creating pathways, creating kind of a culture of how we behave. That is what helps the students learn what to do. But there's also the concept of see something, say something. And that our staff, you know, we're having conversations with our staff and saying, you know, if you're walking by and you notice these kids have shifted too close together or they've removed their mask, just a gentle reminder that, you know, hey, can you do that? And we practice that during our textbook drop off and the end of the year activities, where there were students coming in, sometimes to lockers, sometimes to classrooms getting stuff. And our staff was very good about just kind of circulating and gentle comments. And the students, at least the ones that I approached, were all, oh, okay. And they immediately did it. It does take practice.
I would add to that we can message this on the front end when we're still in distance learning, that we're going to be messaging, hey, when we return to in-person school, please be aware you are going to be required and expected to wear a mask at school. Additionally, if a student really was insistent about not wearing a mask, which, you know, is rare, but it could happen, then we would have some process where we would find an alternate workspace where they were not within 6 feet of another person, perhaps in a room in the office or something of that nature, so that we can, without being too punitive, we can deal with the health concerns of that situation.
I'd like to chime in. This is board member Chris Norwood, and thank you, Skylar and Mr. Stice, for your kind words. But I have to look at it a little bit differently because we are talking about the health and the safety and the well-being of our staff and our students. So we are going to need all the help that we can get from all sides in terms of helping students to adhere to what's necessary. Now, that means at home that students should be practicing wearing their masks. The first time that they start putting on masks for a regular basis should not be at the time when they actually return to campus, which is not going to be right away. These habits in terms of mask wearing in public and those types of things, they start in the home. So while our staff or our leaders in the school district are going to try to be as politically correct as possible during this conversation, I have to chime in the fact that it will start at home. If they're not doing it at home, then they're not going to do it when actual school returns. And at some point, there will have to be a consequence because we are talking about the health and safety of our schools. And I don't recall, Superintendent, did you talk about what happens if we have a case and those types of things already?
I did.
Awesome. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, just to remind all of us that we have about 15 to 20 people raising hands. We're half an hour away from 8. So let's try to keep your answers straight to the point and spend about 30 seconds each so we can hear from the parents and get more answers to the parents. The next one we have is Chaula.
Hi, thanks everyone. Are you able to hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for arranging this session. I have upcoming 9th grader who will go to MHS, this year. So I have a few questions. First one is that how the grading will take place. Will it still be the later grades like normally we have, or it will be like credit, no credit stuff like?
It's grading with a GPA.
Okay, sounds great. The next one I have is for Miss Mayer, which is related to Science Olympiad for 2020-2021. So just wanted to know a bit more that are there any possibilities for Science Olympiad or students to take participation in Science Olympiad this year, or there are no plans?
We will actually just be contacting parents that are involved and students that are involved in Science Olympiad, and also the other things. I need to talk with Principal Rojas more about what the plans are that the nationals have brought down and so forth to be able to completely answer that. And we need to get into school first. That's where we need to go first.
And if I can chime into that question, a lot of our extracurricular activities, there was a question posed to our board and superintendent at the special board meeting earlier regarding speech and debate and other clubs and other activities. Just like what Ms. Meyer said, we'll take a look at what the regulations from those different associations are putting forward. And we want to really support that happening virtually for our students. So I know speech and debate has like virtual competitions. We are entering those competitions currently. We can all do those things virtually. So, but again, we want to focus on getting school started. And we'll be working closely with our ASB as well as our advisors to get those programs back up and running in a virtual and safe manner. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. And my final question is related to honors classes and advanced classes. So what if we choose to have 100% distance learning? Then in that case, will that have any implications or effect in terms of the student schedules?
So at this point, the schedule that we had just presented tonight is a revised schedule where we are all starting off with 100% distance learning. And when we do transition to hybrid, we are only transitioning certain groups of students that need extra support. So when we looked at the data provided about who was choosing 100% virtual learning versus not, we would have to modify course offerings, and our students wouldn't be able to receive the courses they request because we would have to balance those things out. So in this model, all students will be getting the courses that they requested. They will continue on with distance learning, and when it is opportunity to bring students back onto campus, we can bring students back on campus for those targeted groups, or even for for science classes to possibly bring on for labs or in-person experiences. So this way we're trying to maintain the rigor and the standards for all of our classes while giving all of our students the classes that they have requested.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. One other announcement. To give time to other parents, if we can have you ask one question and then submit your other questions online or in the chat box, because our Vice President, Chris Norwood, is monitoring that and he can give you the answers right there. And if we come to the end, we have more time, you're welcome to do your second set of questions. So thank you. Thank you for giving us all these great questions, because this is how we get all of ourselves better in the school year. Next question is from Shelley, I'm sorry, Zana.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I have few questions, but I will start with one. My son was in MUSD since kindergarten, but not in high school yet. Are we considered new to high school or not? How should we enroll? Should we go through new student enrollment or?
He's considered as a student in MUSD, so you go to registration for existing students.
Okay, thank you. May I ask one more question? How can I enroll? We are interested in 100% online. How can I do it? Just go through Aries, student data, authorizations, or should I fill some other form?
If you go to the Milpitas High School website, there is right underneath the quick links, it says enrolling in 100% distance learning. So you can click there. I do have to let you know that because we made a switch midstream based on information that we received last week, that it doesn't look like we'll have enough students opting into the 100% to do the original plan. The plan that you saw Mr. Rojas share at the beginning is such that when the time comes, then it's safe conditions to invite students in small groups to come on campus for targeted instruction, you can decline and keep your child in the distance learning mode and just let the teacher know that he will not be coming in for the small group.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ravi is next.
Hello. We had one question about the PE part of the curriculum. It's a 4-credit course, and we were wondering how is PE going to be handled in the distance learning environment?
So PE in the distance learning environment, the students will still meet with their teacher on a live Zoom or Google Meet daily. And then the teachers will have workouts for those students to do. What we did last semester was there were video recordings often of a workout that a student would do and then send in a response after they'd done the workout. But they may also be doing like a live workout. So the actual curriculum is dependent upon the teacher and the course, but the department is currently working together to create those plans.
So since our son is a senior, he really needs to complete the PE, so he will get the credit for it in this year, right?
Yes, yes, he will get the credit. He will be required to do the workouts that they're providing for him.
Okay,
right.
Thank you so much.
Just one clarification. I didn't quite get what you said about whether he can do it live or video record himself and send it in. Is that an option or that's to be decided?
It's to be decided by the class and probably by the activity that the class is doing at the time. A teacher could technically set the camera up where you could see them and they're doing a yoga workout or something in front of the screen live with the students while the students are in their own houses. Or a teacher could record themselves doing a workout and send it out to the students to copy.
Oh,
got it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Maria Cadeva. Maria, are you there? All right, we'll come back to you. Let's go with Shelley Jones.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm trying to desperately unmute myself and it's not easy. Do you plan, thank you for sharing the plans, very much appreciated. Do you plan to hold anything related to ANC 10 this year?
I didn't, the last part of what you said, do we plan to hold?
ANC 10 competition this year, you know, the math and.
I think as Principal Rojas said, that would depend on if that organization provides for a virtual competition.
Yeah, I believe that's the program, that's the club that Ms. Sang advises. Is that what you're talking about?
I know that that's a competition that's normally held on the premises of the high school, and there's like ANC 8 and ANC 10, and it goes sometimes around the October timeframe.
You mean PSAT? PSAT 10?
No, she's talking about the AMC exams that math department is usually the ones that take care of that, and they would be the ones that would be looking at that.
Yes, I'm going to write that down and contact, I believe that's Miss Wailan Sang that organizes that for our math department, and I'll ask that question.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Maria. Shelley Jones?
I'd also like to mention my husband is a parent sponsor for the math club, and and the math student club is already beginning to meet and talk about AMC 8 and AMC 10. So she can also reach out to my husband. The principal has my husband's email, so, and they are already meeting and talking. My question is, what are we going to be doing when we're online for classes like AP Chemistry, where you have labs, and what about choir, band, orchestra? How are you going to handle those online?
I can, while Ms. Myers is preparing to answer that, I can answer the part about the choir and wind instruments. At this point in time, the county public health department is not allowing for choir or wind instruments in person. And so there are programs that our teachers may have used this past spring that they can implement now, but that's something that I wish we had one of those teachers who could answer, and maybe we'll be able to get one of them to come on Thursday so that we can have them tell you exactly what they're playing. And then as far as the AP Chemistry?
So as far as labs and in all of our science classes, we are talking and looking at different options of being able to either do virtual labs. As Mr. Rojas said, our hope is that when we get to the point where we can do some small group in-class instructions, that would be something that we would be looking at also for the ones that need to come in and do, specifically with those lab requirements. But one of the nice things is that I will say is that there are a lot of groups out there that once they realized this was where we were going to need to go, they have really been putting forth a lot of different options for us, for teachers to be able to look at and to work with, to be able to work in the lab work that is so vital to science classes.
All right. Next, we have Antoinette Chavez.
Can you hear me? I think
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Actually, my questions have been answered so far. Ms. Meyer answered, you answered, Ms. Jordan, so I can yield to someone else. All my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Mihaela?
Hi, I'm her husband, so I don't look like Mihaela. I'm gay, but it's okay. All right, a couple quick questions. One is, when will we pick up the books for the new year? And the second one is the one that's quite even more important, is for the online learning after 2 months. Will there be an option to continue for a few more months, even if the state allows for hybrid or in-person learning for everybody, or how will that work?
Yeah, the current model that we presented earlier is exactly what you're asking, that we continue with the distance learning for most of our students and only bring on to campus students who need the extra support. So for students who are succeeding, we will continue with the distance learning through the majority of the semester, but also provide options for students to come onto campus if they need that extra support or have been identified to be struggling with the distance learning. So instead of what we were thinking before was making the hybrid the default is now the distance learning, and we're looking at ways to bring in smaller groups that need the help. The first question around the books, currently that will come out in the email I send tomorrow, but we're looking at the second full week of school, bringing students onto campus once we've had all of our schedules finalized to come in for appointments by grade level and visit our book rooms to pick up the textbooks they have. But the first item of business is to make sure our freshmen and our new students have their ID cards, so they have the ability just to scan the ID card so we can check it out. So I'll have that information out to all parents sometime tomorrow in an email.
Okay, great. So mostly for the attendance, it's first semester sounds like it's distance learning. Second is TBD. Is that sort of what we're looking at?
Yes.
I would say, go ahead. I would say that we can't say necessarily a definitive finite date at this point. However, I would say my best guess is that it's highly unlikely that in Santa Clara County we'll have 14 straight consecutive days with no cases of COVID before December. And what I am hoping for is that perhaps there might be a change where we might be able to apply for a waiver to have special ed students at the secondary level, as well as targeted students for assistance to come in person. But for right now, our best answer is 100%.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Hannah Ruda.
Hi, I have a question. I mean, two of my questions were already answered. I think the third one, which I had it was like, if a student want to change the course, which he has already enrolled earlier, what will be the process here in this case?
So we will be sending information, giving like letting you know which days, but most likely that we will have the Aries schedules go live next week, probably on Thursday. And the students on Thursday and Friday will be sent out a Google form where if they request a schedule change, they'll answer the questions on the form, letting the counselor know what they want. If it's something simple, the counselor will just make the change. If it is something where they need to contact the student, then we're going to have the student provide their contact information, and then we'll set up an appointment.
So basically you will be sending information on the parent square. Is this what I am learning?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the student can send an email to his or her counselor also?
Well, it will be a form. We'll send a form that the student will fill out to tell us what they need.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your answer.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. I have a 5-Me 2020.
Yes, hi. I'm the parent of an incoming 9th grader and also a 6th grader that's going to be going to Senate. And my question is, now that things will be changing after 6 weeks of 100% distance learning, it will continue for MHS students. I'd rather keep both my kids on the same schedule, obviously for work purposes. I opted for hybrid for both of them. Can I now go back and change my younger child to 100% distance learning?
We are going to also for our elementary keep them in a similar model of 100% with bringing in students in small groups for targeted assistance. So I don't think you need to change it.
So I don't need to do anything then at this point now?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sanjita?
Hey, so I had a band question that other parent asked how that is going to work out, and if like during the springtime they didn't have anything going, in case given county directive, they cannot do wind instruments or choir, can they be given an option to pick any other elective because this is not planned or it cannot be moving forward?
Either Assistant Principal Drager or Principal Rojas.
So let me answer that. So although we can't do the in-person, I have spoken to our band directors about providing online distance learning music classes. So for example, what music classes that are allowed right now are percussive instruments. So we have like all of our percussionists, drummers, our string orchestra, they can all practice, they can gather at a certain point and do that. It's the wind instruments and the choir that is not allowed. The challenge with enrolling in other elective classes, especially art classes, the credential for a music teacher is very different than a credential for a visual art teacher. So we can't just move them because we don't have enough teachers. But my discussion with the music teachers, and I'll try to invite at least one of the music teachers to our meeting on Thursday, is that their idea is that they provide music theory, instrumental lessons through their courses. But what is absent is the ensemble performance, like doing things all together. So there will still be, we still will have music classes. They just won't be doing concerts together at this moment in time. Or even the marching band association has canceled those competitions as well because there's just no possibility to do that.
I understand. So if the child wants to take something other than art, is there an option to pick any other elective? Because the wind instrument, my child has been playing wind instruments since 4th grade. But if, like last semester, it was only theory that they did. And he actually wants to play the instrument. If that's not an option, can he pick something like accounting or photography? Or something in the city college? Would that be okay?
Yes, there's always, if there's space in those classes at semester, we can do some course request changes for that. So there are always possibilities, but it just depends on the numbers of spaces we have for classes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Sanvi? Sanvi, are you there? We'll come back to you. When?
Hi, yes. My question is that when can we start to contact our counselors? Because we sent an email earlier to her, but we only get an email bounce back saying that it's still during their summer and we need to contact them after the summer.
Yeah, our counselors come back on, I believe, the 10th officially, but they will be doing schedule changes via the form before then.
Okay, so we can still send emails to them, or we need to wait until
Send
August?
an email right now, you will not get a response to. If it's a class change thing, use the schedule change form that's coming out next week.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, wait until the start of the school year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. We have Umala Lasmi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm a new parent to MUSD, so I don't know how this distance learning plan works. It was not here last year. So will the classes be over Zoom like this, or is there a different platform that you have to sign into?
Zoom or Google Meet will be the two platforms. And most likely, most teachers will want to use Zoom, I would imagine. We have one of our teachers who's online speak to that.
Myself, I will be using Zoom as my major platform for live meetings, mainly for some of the features that it has. There's breakout rooms and a couple other things that I can use. And then also, every student will be enrolled in their Google Classroom for their classes. The way that our system works, it automatically puts them into those Google Classrooms. And then that makes it so that the students and the teachers are automatically digitally linked.
Okay. So we have not enrolled in Aries yet. Will there be instructions sent out to us as to how to enroll in Aries?
Correct. That once you're enrolled in the school, we take care, the back end takes care of getting the students into those classrooms, into the digital classrooms.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Martha.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a teacher, and since they're saying that we need to assign homework every day, but we meet the student because it's block schedule now. It's different than before. Block schedule is we meet them only twice. So I'm thinking that is that okay that we have assigned on Wednesday we're going to give them assessment or something, a homework to do. So by doing this way, we should give them 3 assignments instead of everyday assignment because they have other subjects. It's a lot of work. Isn't I correct?
Yes, Ms. King, that is something we'll discuss within our departments.
But I think the student needs to know and parent teachers will not want to know. We are planning it. We cannot just say, oh, there's no.
Right, but our staff needs to have that discussion before we have it.
Well, we don't get any answer. How can we plan the lesson? And parents should know that we are using Google Classroom. And as long as we got a roster, we teachers, we can put a Google Classroom's code and the link on the areas so students can sign in and get into our classroom. Because before, we can be on the site, invite students to get in, but now they're all at home. So we need to know that, and parents need to know, in order to get into Google Classroom, later on they have to check and the areas to click on them. I'm just afraid that some teachers didn't post their classroom code and link on the areas. I'm trying to help parents too. Okay.
Okay, Martha, maybe maybe Skylar or Principal Rojas can get back to you, and then you can let your parents know, the parents of your students know. So, Skylar, please take, yes. Yes, once she let you know, you can publish it out to the students or the parents. So we're gonna go on to the next question from Mindy.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I have a question. So I noticed that the NHS is not hosting the SAT test for the for this half year. So is NHS considering to host a SAT and AP test for the next year?
There is currently no SAT tests being given anywhere.
But the students is able to choose some other locations when they register.
So,
like for example, in the Fremont or some other cities.
That's a surprise to me. So we are a super site for testing, one of the main testing sites in the Bay Area. We have not been contacted by the College Board regarding in-person testing. We would look into that. If those opportunities were available, we would look into setting some of those up for our students in our community, definitely. But I have not received any information from College Board saying that we would like to start back up here at Milpitas.
Yeah, and
Okay, thank you. Because
my understanding was that they weren't doing the SAT test until at least 2021, that it was on hiatus right now, but it could be wrong.
No, actually the student is able to register for the November test. And it was actually, we don't have an option to choose the MHS site, but you have to choose a different school. So I don't know how that works out.
So if it's if taking the SAT is a priority for you and your student, sign up for it and sign up for the other site. The SAT is not something that is run by the schools. They just use our site for it. It's a totally separate entity, and we just provide the space for the SAT and host it. However, it's totally run by the College Board. So if that is a priority for you and your student, and there is availability for it. It has not been extended to MHS to offer the test. Take that test where you feel safe and necessary to take the test. That's my advice to you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle Kessinger.
Hi, yes, thank you, President Hahn. First, I want to just say thank you so much to the staff and the board for having this discussion, and also for all the effort that you guys have put in making sure that our kids are going to be safe while they're learning, as well as coming up with a wonderful plan. My student, Aaron, is going to be a senior this year, and we were interested in doing possibly some extended, I guess it's the extended college, San Jose City College. Are they going to be doing distant learning online, or how are they going to be on the same schedule as you, as the high school? How does that work?
San Jose City College is doing all online for this semester.
That's all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Diet Star.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my student is interested in being on a golf team. Will we be advised as to when and if he's going to need to participate in that, or how will we get information?
So we have been I think it was just late last week, we were given the schedule from the California Interscholastic Federation, who runs athletics throughout the state, as well as our Central Coast section. Our athletic director will be sending out information regarding when sports are starting back up, when practice will start back up. What do we call this? Eligibility, sorry, I hit my head. Eligibility, and when physicals are required. Right now, again, it's a moving timeline. Everything is scheduled for January forward, with modified seasons starting with fall in January, then followed by winter and spring. Golf is a spring sport?
Yes.
Yeah, so I assume that sport will probably start around March or April. But we'll put out that information through Parent Square to our entire community about the procedures for athletics.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Stark.
Thank you. Bhavani?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my son is going to 8th grade next year, but I called for my daughter who already graduated from high school. But for her graduation, and also she went into a different college which has unique requirements. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Rojas for helping her, and also Assistant Principal Skylar Drager, and also AP Chemistry teacher. I mean, right now she's in college, but even the school students from private school, they're asking my daughter for the chemistry doubts. I mean, AP Chemistry teacher, I don't remember your name, but you did an awesome job. And also, she never required math tutoring in high school. The teacher stayed after school and also helped her. So it really helped her. And Mr. Rojas, thank you so much. I mean, he helped during the summer when he's not even supposed to read the emails, and it was very crucial time for him, for his family, or I don't want to go into details, but he really helped out for my daughter, and I'm really thankful for everything that worked out in high school.
Well, thank you so much for those compliments. We rarely hear the appreciation, and it's very heartfelt for me to hear that. What I can say as the principal of Milpitas High School is, even when we went to this crisis mode pandemic response, I could not ask for a better staff than we have here at Milpitas High School, who really jumped in and did their best. Our teachers, our classified staff, we did our best here. And we also have a very awesome district leadership and our school board. We all made this happen together. As a culture of we're stronger together. I'm sure I'm taking some words out of Superintendent Jordan's mouth, but we're very blessed to be part of this community, because we went all in, and we're going to continue doing that this school year. and try to make this the best we can for our students. So thank you for those compliments. We rarely hear the compliments, and that was just very important to all of us to hear. So again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for shaping my daughter's career. I mean, all the response we got, prompt response we got, despite of number of students you have, each and every student is important for you, and you proved it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. We're moving on to Larry Lamb. Superintendent and everyone, we have 3 more questions, so let's go through this.
My question is about with distance learning, we all have, using computers, cameras, internet. Those technology can break down at any time. The internet can go out for no,
right
instantly. Well, but my question is, will the classes be recorded or not for the students to go back in case there's some technology challenges?
Yes, Mr. Weber.
There is no requirement for the teacher to record. Unfortunately, teachers are entitled to their privacy as well. And so we will not be recorded, and it will not be required to be recorded. If I may offer a piece of advice, communication. Communication is key. If you have a technology snafu and something goes wrong, and there's technology challenge, please communicate with your teacher. We are understanding of those difficulties. But if we don't know about those difficulties, then we cannot make the exceptions for that. As a general rule, I would say to you that most classes will not be recorded.
Right.
And I want to just add in with Mr. Weber that the big thing is making sure that your student is communicating with their teachers, and not like 4 days later with an excuse, but as soon as they possibly can, in some way, getting in touch with their teacher, of letting them know that, hey, this is what happened. Their teachers are going to work with them.
Can I add something really quick to that? What's different about the spring versus what we're doing in the fall is there is going to be daily attendance per period. So our offices will be back up and running, and if a student is disengaging from a class or a teacher is concerned about a student's engagement, we'll be following up a lot more urgently with the support of our staff secretaries in the office and our counselors and our assistant principals. So if there becomes what we see like a chronic issue or issues with technology, you will be contacted if a student misses a class, I think 3 times or 3 periods, and we will try to reach out and support you in that way.
I would also add that there will be teachers who will be posting recordings of lectures or instruction in Google Classroom. So I don't think it's an across the board, no teachers are going to ever record their instruction. I know that many of the teachers at our school are planning to record instruction and have it accessible, for some time. So I wanted to add to that.
That's an excellent point, Mr. Stice, because the teachers are also using Google Classroom to post resources, assignments, backup things. And so even if a particular lecture got missed, there is all that other stuff.
Yes, an additional comment. If privacy is a concern, with especially the video portion, how about just recording the audio?
That will be up to the individual teacher.
Also, okay. Yeah, because if a student misses a class, a lot of the concepts and learning is missed, right? And sometimes it's tough to catch up. So I'm just thinking, preparing for all this type of, worst case scenario.
All right. I'm sure the teachers will think of that tonight. Thank you, Mr. Lamb. We're moving on to David. David, are you there?
Is this me?
Yes. Are you David? Okay.
Short and sweet.
Zero period classes. I'm particularly interested in jazz band and zero period PE. I'm guessing they're not going to happen this year.
Actually, our zero period classes are still scheduled to happen, just as they always would, in the same way that all the other classes are happening. What I do need to get back to you on is the start time, because we bumped the start time of our other courses from 8 to 8:30. I need to discuss with those staff teaching zero period what the start time for zero period is.
Okay. So zero period PE will happen this year then?
Correct.
Okay, good.
All right. Thank you, David. That was short and sweet, yes. Michelle?
Hi. Thank you everyone for whatever you guys do in MHS and MUSD. I want to ask about community service, because we have like distance learning. Would the community service rules and restrictions be like more lenient as to what they can do to fulfill that requirement maybe?
So when we left off in spring, Ms. Canez had sent out some information about how to continue to accrue community service during this time. So we did modify that. We did not foresee that we would continue in this distance learning for this long. So we would probably have to consider adjusting our graduation requirements, because we don't want to put our students in unsafe situations where they have to do community service in person. But we have so many students and student groups who are doing, like, creating nonprofit organizations, doing charity work in a distance manner, and we want to honor that. So we will be looking at making those modifications and changing it. Maybe this is the move to doing service learning projects, not just accruing hours, but actually being able to journal what you did, what you learned, how you did it, and what you got out of it. And that will account for some sort of credit. So when we come back together as staff, we would discuss that and we'll communicate that out. But definitely, I don't think we'll be sticking to 120 hours for a graduation requirement, especially for our seniors. That's just a little unfair at this point.
That sounds good. I guess my child's situation, she's very eager to fulfill that, but now with, you know, you can't go out to community to do it, so they feel they're being left behind, you know, like by the time I graduate, I'm not gonna, that's all. So I think, yeah, if you guys are gonna look into expanding the options that they can do, I think that will be really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. All right, Superintendent, would you close us out? Again, thank you all for an hour and a half, sharing your caring and everything that you're doing for the students in the community. Superintendent.
Thank you, President. Thank you to all of our staff for being here tonight and to answer questions. Thank you too to our association presidents, Michelle Kessinger for classified, and hello, Aaron. I see her with, see him with Michelle, and also our president of our Teachers Association, Diane Orlando. And as you can see, we are all here because we care, and because just like you, we want the best for the kids, because in order for us to feel good about what we do, we need to see that they're feeling successful and they're feeling engaged, and we want to engage with them and we want to engage with you. We will have another meeting again on Thursday night, same time, 6:30 to 8. And for those of you who have Chinese as your first language, we will be offering another parent Q&A in Chinese soon. We're looking possibly at Friday evening. And our communication specialist, Scott Forstner, thank you for running the Zoom tonight, Scott, will be posting as soon as we have that definitive time. And just a reminder that we are all stronger together. And if you've been at Milpitas High School for a few years, you may remember when the students had this culture and climate effort that they were focusing on. And it's just a reminder to us of the fabulous work all of you have done as parents and guardians, and all of our staff, all of our team members, in really providing an environment where our kids feel stronger together and they know that we are behind them. So thank you and have a great evening.